it going, everyone? My name is Jordan and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be doing a $580 budget entry level gaming PC. Now, with our first piece of equipment is going to be the Core i3-6100. It'll run you about $110 depending on where you buy it from. The only issue with this is that it's only a dual core processor. However, it does employ hyper-threading, which closes that gap between a 4-core i5. And if you don't know what hyper-threading is, it pretty much adds an additional logical core for each physical core, which is handy for streaming, video editing, and multitasking CPU-intensive tasks. Now, to go with that Intel Core i3, you're going to need a motherboard, and for this particular build, we're going with the Gigabyte GA B150M-DS3H Micro ATX motherboard. Two things about this board. One, it's cheap. It's going to run you about $70-ish, or you can find it on sale or mail and rebate, depending on where you look. It's a micro ATX board, which means you're not going to find every single feature that a normal ATX board has, but that's okay because this is an entry-level gaming, and now because we're going to pair it with a micro ATX mid-tower case, you might have room to build in the future, but for the price point, it shouldn't worry. In the future, you're going to be set. But again, that's the Gigabyte GA B150M-DS3H Micro ATX motherboard. It's a very good board for the price. It'll work well with the Intel Core i3. Should have no problems with that. You're going to have plenty of space for RAM and anything else that you really want to put on the board. I think it supports up to a 210 graphic card, or like a 350 millimeter. Ignore the 210. It's 350 millimeter long graphic card that can fit into that. But yeah, you should have no issues with this board. Now, you're gonna need some RAM to get some good speed and just have, fast memory when you're switching through stuff or doing other things like video editing. We went with the crucial 8GB to 4GB sticks of DDR4 2133 memory. It's going to run you about $40. Now, a couple things about these RAM sticks is, one, it's DDR4, which means it's automatically faster than DDR3. Two, it's 2133 speed, which means each stick is it's pretty fast, okay? Normally you got like 1600 or higher. I think 2133 might be the highest or one of the highest speeds that you can get, which means it's good. You should have no issues there. But one issue with this RAM is that it's not the most ideal looking if you want to go with a color scheme. Just in case you wanted a more quote-unquote designer looking RAM, we got the GIL Evo Potenza 8GB to 4GB RAM sticks, DDR4 2133 memory, so you're not sacrificing any speeds, any type of RAM. It is still DDR4, it is still 2133 speed, it's still 2 sticks of 4, and it's just a lot better looking. It's still going to run you about $32, so just in case you do care about looks, I would recommend this particular RAM stick. Now, you're going to need a graphics card to play and run those higher end games. And for this budget build, we went with the Sapphire Radeon RX 470 graphics card. That is the 4GB variant. It's going to run you $200 depending on where you look. And this card, you should have no issue playing higher end games around 60 frames per second. League of Legends and different MOBAs like that, you're gonna run past 60 frames on ultra high or higher, however it goes, no issue. But with this graphics card, let's say you want to play something like Ark Survival Evolved, you're gonna run at about 40 frames on medium, give or take, which is really good, actually, surprisingly. And with that DDR4, you might even get higher FPS. This is a very good graphics card to buy. It is a little steep, $200, but you could always save another $60 if you have the money, give or take, to buy the RX 480 or to get the 1060, because I believe those are both about $260-ish. Now you're going to need some storage to hold all of those games in your operating system. So we went with the Western Digital Blue Edition. 1 terabyte hard drive is going to run you about $60-ish on Newegg. And well, that's pretty much it for the storage. I recommend in the future get a SSD. For this, we're going to say the Corsair Force LE 240 gigabyte 2.5 SSD is going to run you about $60. So if you have the extra money, just spend it. It's way worth it. You can put your operating system on there. Your load up times are going to be 2 times faster. It's well worth the extra $60. But if you don't have that, it's fine. Save it up, wait for later, and then put it in your build later. But I really do highly recommend having having an SSD, as well as with a hard drive. 1 terabyte isn't really enough in today's age because games are getting extremely large. So if you do have an extra like $20-ish, I do believe you can get a 2 terabyte hard drive. That'll benefit you a lot. These hard drives are going to last a while, and if you get a 2 terabyte or 1 terabyte, you should be fine until you run out of space. But you should have no issues with there. Make sure you get an SSD later on when you have the money, though. Now, for the power supply, we went with the Seasonic 520 watt 80 plus bronze certified fully modular ATX power supply. That's going to run you about $65. And 2 things that you need to know with power supplies. 1, these things obviously put all of the energy from your sockets to your PC. So you really don't want to cheap out on this. You want to get one that is obviously certified, because certified indicates that it is energy efficient and it's not going to short circuit your board if, let's say, power outage and all of the energy within it being stirred shuts off. It might crash. It might kill your computer if you don't have a good one. Also, that certification is to implicate some sort of power surge, if you will, within the power supply, because it's going to take all of that energy flowing through it, and it's going to safely pass it. It's not going to surge it, or it's not going to short circuit or anything. So never cheap out on the power supply. Always make sure it's at least bronze certified, and always make sure it's at least 500 watts. That's because if you have any upgrades later, you don't want to waste another $70 or more on a power supply when you have already a good one. 520 watts is going to be perfect. This build is... Now, of course, you're going to need a case to hold all of your newly bought or going to be bought PC parts. And for this build, keep in mind that it is a micro ATX build. We went with the fractal design Core 1000 micro ATX tower case. You're going to get USB 3.0. You're going to get room to fit that graphics card. You're going to get enough space in general to upgrade more parts later. Of course, micro ATX, again, please keep that in mind. You should be fine with this case. It's going to run you about $40. That's on the cheaper end, but it is really good for that price. I do recommend it. And yeah, you should have no issues with it. Now, of course, you're going to need a case to hold all of your newly bought or going to be bought PC parts. And for this build, keep in mind that it is a micro ATX build. We went with the fractal design Core 1000 micro ATX tower case. You're going to get USB 3.0. You're going to get room to fit that graphics card. You're going to get enough space in general to upgrade more parts later. Of course, micro ATX, again, please keep that in mind. You should be fine with this case. It's going to run you about $40. So it's on the cheaper end, but it is really good for that price. I do recommend it. And yeah, you should have no issues with it.